flooded with questions about vaccines, mostly related to recent vaccines that are all over the media, but also about vaccines in general. During some of the private correspondence, I've been asked about the issue of the Th1 and Th2 immune system disturbance several times, and I have mentioned these systems in my glutathione video, so please check out that video for more complementary information. But people have been wanting me to explain things a bit further and whether vaccines affect the balance. Part 1 will be an overview of the systems, what are the different cell types and how do they react to disease. Part 2 will look into whether vaccines may play a role in altering the immune system's balance. Unfortunately, due to YouTube's limitations on permitted material, Part 2 will be an Odyssey exclusive. However, I'll notify YouTube users when Part 2 is released on Odyssey. So let's establish some background. Firstly, the cells we will be talking about today are white blood cells, which are also known as leukocytes. That is to distinguish them from the other blood cells, which are platelets involved in clotting and red blood cells involved in transporting oxygen. Red blood cells and platelets do not have a nucleus. They roll off the production line to perform their duties and can all look very similar. White blood cells, on the other hand, have a nucleus and at a cellular level are much more variable with regards to their form and adaptability to changing conditions. Our cellular immune system can be divided into two main responses, the type 1 helper T or Th1 system and the type 2 helper T or Th2 system. To be clear, our body does not use a simple either-or response, and there is plenty of debate about how the systems interact. To be honest, I think the body is far more complicated than we can imagine, and no doubt in the future people will look back at our state of knowledge and have a chuckle. As with many things in nature, there are forces at play that we know are working even if we can't fully describe them.
You must feel the force around you.
However, in order to have some sort of discussion, we can use the Th1 and Th2 systems as a starting point for seeing how our bodies might react to stressors and infections. I think it can be useful for illustrative purposes, and more importantly, imbalance in immune pathway responses has been implicated in a range of illnesses. This has been an area of research for medical specialist of environmental medicine Joachim Mutter, and we refer to his 2009 book, Healthy Instead of Chronically Ill in Virus Mania. One arm of the Th1 system response is activation of cytotoxic T cells. These are active against cancerous cells as well as intracellular pathogens such as certain bacteria and viruses, depending on your school of thought. In any case, we can see that they can recognize and neutralize abnormal cells in the body. The next arm of the Th1 system is immunoglobulin G, or IgG production from B cells. IgG is a type of antibody, which is a protein that binds to particles the body recognizes as foreign, such as a microbe. The antibody can neutralize the microbe directly or instigate the immune system to attack it. IgG seems to be our main antibody and is the one that crosses the placenta to provide passive immunity to the baby. Another arm of the Th1 system is macrophage activation. I don't like to play favourites because all of these cells are important, but I've always loved these ones. They patrol around the body, and sometimes when they find something not supposed to be there, they simply gobble it up. On to the Th2 system. One arm of this system is eosinophil activation. These cells produce many inflammatory compounds, including reactive oxygen species, a group of free radicals, as well as prostaglandins and cytokines. Eosinophils are important in combating parasites. Overactivity of eosinophils is associated with asthma and autoimmune diseases. The next arm of the Th2 system is mast cell and basophil activation. These cells are also involved in parasite defense and other infections. They release many pro-inflammatory substances such as histamine and various cytokines. Overactivity is seen in asthma and allergic conditions. Another arm of the Th2 system is B cell activation to produce all the main antibody types. Okay, so now we have an outline of the two systems, but what happens when things get out of balance? Certain conditions can result in the immune system increasing the Th2 type responses, which simultaneously reduces the Th1 immune response. As a result of the suppressed Th1 activity, not only can chronic infections with bacteria or fungi occur, but potentially also cancer, as cancer cells are destroyed through the Th1 immune response via cytotoxic cells. In order to compensate for the throttling of the Th1 system, the Th2 immune defense can be overstimulated. Indeed, the Th2 system is often overactive and the Th1 system is impaired, not only in people who suffer from allergies or autoimmune diseases, but also in cancer patients. Lack of reduced glutathione levels in the body seem to play a role, as I discussed in my glutathione video. We'll look into the vaccine question in part 2. Part 2 will start with a quick mention of Peter Gøtzsche, the Danish doctor and co-founder of the Cochrane collaboration, and the book on vaccines he released in 2020. Gøtzsche was forced out of Cochrane in 2018, and surrounding this was his allegations that the organisation had been compromised, so their reviews are no longer reliable. This included analysis of vaccines, and Gøtzsche claims Cochrane are now biased in portraying some of them favourably. If this is the case, what were some of the factors that led to this change? Many industry watchdogs trace it back to a familiar pattern of financial influence. Now, where have we seen that name before? That's all for part 1. See you for part 2 soon.